Hello, this video is to help you with these two learning targets. I can solve for x given a compound inequality. I can find and write the solution set for a compound inequality in set notation and interval notation. This is a Khan Academy problem. It's in the Algebra 1 solving inequalities, and it's specifically compound inequalities. There's two videos you can watch, and then right here is the practice that was assigned. Solve for x. Our compound inequality has the word or in it. When we have the word or, that is called a disjunction, and it means that we're going to be looking for the union of two sets for inequality number 1 and inequality number 2. If we write our inequalities and then we solve them for x, then we have x is greater than -3 or x is less than -3. Let's graph the inequalities and see what our graphs are going to look like. Here is my first inequality in black and my second inequality in red. And what we'll notice is that we have all x values to the right of -3 and all the x values to the left of -3. Please note that we're using an or in our compound inequality. This is read as the solution set for either one or the other. Because we're using the disjunction or, which is instruction for us to use the union of the two sets, we're going to take each of the inequalities and graph them together. So we have x is greater than -3 and x is less than -3. So for our compound inequality, we want to include both solution sets. So we're going to have x is greater than -3 union with x is less than -3. In interval notation, this would be open parenthesis -infinity all the way to -3, open parenthesis. There's the union symbol again. Open parenthesis -3 all the way to positive infinity. This is typically what a union set looks like, where you have a graph and the arrows are going in opposite directions. Not necessarily always from the same number though. Sometimes there's two different numbers. At the end of this video, we'll see a few special cases where sometimes the arrows are not going in opposite directions. To give you a concrete example, if we were to pick x equals 0, obviously 0 is greater than -3, and this value for x is true in my first inequality. But it's okay that it's not true in the second, because we have an or word in our compound inequality. Using x is -10,000, you can see that it's false in my first inequality and true in my second, which is fine also, because as long as it works for one, we're okay. We still have found a solution to the set. We can pick any real number except that number which is -3. -3 is not going to work for either of those inequality statements in our compound inequality. So -3 would not be a part of the solution. Keep trying with Khan Academy, and eventually you're going to get it. In this next example, I have two inequalities, and they are also joined with the word or again. So remember, this is a disjunction, and we're looking for the union of two solution sets. When I go ahead and work the inequalities and solve these for x, we will notice that we're going to have x is greater than or equal to -4/3, and we're going to end up having, for the second inequality, x is less than -2. If I go ahead and graph these two inequality statements on the same graph, you'll notice that I have their union again. If I were going to write this in set notation, I would go ahead and write open parenthesis, negative infinity to negative 2, union with open parenthesis 4/3 to positive infinity. That would be interval notation. And then set notation, I would say x can be any member from the real numbers, and x such that x is less than negative 2, union x is greater than negative 4/3. I have another example here, but please notice that this has an and in the compound inequality. And when we have an and, we will be looking for the intersection of the two sets. And if I look at x is less than negative 2 and x is greater than 2, there is no intersection. It's problems like these that you have to be extra careful for so that you are interpreting the compound inequality correctly and paying close attention to whether it's an or an and statement. In this case, we have another compound inequality with and once again, there is no intersection. And that'll give us no solution. There's no x that is going to work for both of these. When you have a compound inequality and it uses the word and, we need solutions for both inequalities. So we need something that's going to work for both of those, unlike an or statement where it's one or the other. For an and, it must be both. And we use the intersection symbol, which is an upside down U. Some other special cases that I want to draw to your attention. Look at this disjunction. This disjunction, x is greater than 2 and x is greater than 5. Because you want the solution set to include every possible solution, you're going to choose to use the x is greater than 2 for your solution set. Because if you choose x is greater than 2, you're going to already have covered the x is greater than 5. And remember, this is for union. Now, if these two same inequalities were turned into a combined inequality with an and, then you would want where they cross. You would want the intersection. You need the values that will work for both. And that would be x is greater than 5. So it's very important to pay attention to what is being used in the compound inequality to put the two inequalities together. Another special case, we have the and statement. Remember, the and is the intersection symbol. In this case, there is no intersection. You have a solution set with x is greater than 2. You have a solution set x is less than negative 1. There is no solution because there is no intersection. No value will work for both. I hope you found this lesson helpful. Please continue to try your best and bring questions to class so that we can work together and improve on our learning targets, which is to solve compound inequalities. Thanks for watching and have a nice day or evening.